Welcome back to Apollo. Today we'll be taking a look at the popular subreddit r/EntitledParents. EM demands for her child to use my wheelchair. Some context. I have a disability that causes me to have severe balance issues, along with muscle weakness and falls. And while I can still walk, it's unsafe for me to do so I use a wheelchair. One day, I needed to go to the supermarket and decided to take my little sister, 8, along with me. I don't see her often, as I live out of home, so we made a day out of it, going to the biggest shopping center on our side of town, and had a great time. After having lunch in the food court, she wanted to have a play in the playground they have, so, with her sitting on my lap, I pushed us over, and she went in and had a blast. After about 15 minutes, she fell over, and since my chair can't fit into the playground, I removed my walking stick from its holder on the side and walked in to make sure she was alright. In enters the entitled parent. After getting my sis to stop crying by joking I'd have to eat her leg now that she's landed on it, when I joke like that she giggles like mad, I turned to wobble back to my chair, only to see it's been moved. It was around 3 meters away from where I had left it, right by the entrance where parents had left trolleys, prams, etc. And a child was sitting in my seat while her mum spun the chair around. I made my way over and asked for my chair back when EM started on me. Me. Hello, I need my wheelchair back, and you shouldn't have taken it without asking. EM. But you can walk. I was so taken aback by that. Yes, I could walk, but I was obviously struggling to even stand. Me. Excuse me? EM. You can walk. You don't need it. You just want it. I was shocked. As she was saying this, she was raising her voice, and people were starting to look. I was firm, and told her that while yes, I can walk, I can't do so for very long, and need my chair. EM. Well, what's wrong with you then? Me. None of your business. EM. You say you need the chair, but you won't even tell me what's wrong with you. She said it as if I was the crazy one. She reluctantly got her kid off my chair, so I put my stick away and sat back down. My muscles in my legs were in agony from having to stand for so long, so I pushed myself back to where my sis and I were set up to try and forget what had just happened and rest. As I was going, she was loudly complaining about me to the people around her, claiming I'm lying about needing my chair because I can walk and that I'm just a dull bludger. I got my sis from the playground and left the food court as fast as I could. My sis was upset from the confrontation too, so we went and saw a movie to calm us down. I think it was The Secret Life of Pets we saw. She loved it. I've had people both confront me about walking and demand to know what's wrong with me before, but I've never had a complete stranger take my chair. Please treat people's wheelchairs and walking sticks and walkers as an extension of their body and not something to touch without permission. My kids can hit you because you're 15. So, not entirely sure how common this is on here, but this involves some family members. So, I'm 15, turning 16 this year. According to EM, my aunt by marriage, this is grounds to allow her brat children to treat me like a jungle gym. Today, we had a family reunion of sorts, more of a get-together, and pretty much everyone in the family was invited. There were a good 30 people there. Amongst them was EM, who brought along her 3 identical triplets, which are 6 years old. She treats them like gods, and it's typically annoying. The little shits had been tearing my poor grandparents' house apart, but it's just kids being kids. I decided to ignore them and sit down in a guest bedroom on the ground floor and listen to music, leaving the door open so people could get my attention. Eventually, they come over to my room and enter. They're bouncing around, being obnoxious, and most likely loud. Not that I could tell with headphones on. Soon, they crowd around me, trying to get my attention. I don't budge, and this makes them mad. So, they throw my headphones off of my head. Thank God they're unharmed. And start climbing all over me, hitting me, sometimes even biting me. So, I decided to shake them off, literally shake, mind you. In the process, one of them bumps their head on the floor and begins wailing. EM comes in, none too pleased with my heinous sins. "What the did you do to my baby, you little she screeches into my face. "Well, EM, they were climbing on me, biting me and hitting me. I shook them off of me and one bumped his head on the floor. Fell about 2 feet, he's faking it," I replied, garnering the protest of the crying child, saying he wasn't. "How old are you, OP?" EM screams a few seconds later. 15. I was then cut off as she got up in my face. 15? You are 15, OP. My kids are 6. Man up. She then sweetened her tone and looked at her kids. "Babies, Mommy's going back to the family room to be with Daddy. You have fun, okay?" And with that, she glared at me and left the room. I was left with 3 ornery little who immediately went back to climbing on me, biting me, and hitting me. So, you may be wondering, OP, how do you deal with this? You can't just hit little kids. Well, true enough. So, I had to hatch a different plan. And what was it? Simple. Every little brat's worst nightmare. I threatened to tell their dad, my uncle. They began to freak out and cry, hopping off of me and begging me not to tell on them. I gave them a choice, run away or I'd tell their dad. And off they skittered. Moral of the story, EM is a and if you want to beat your enemy, think like them. I do not care if you have cancer. My child deserves your seat. This encounter happened about 7 months ago. I do not want to insult your intelligence because you most likely already know what EM and me stands for. But I should say that EK in this story stands for embarrassed kid, and OG stands for old gentleman, 60-some-year-old guy. The kid was very polite and sorry, so this story isn't about him. Also, I'm translating this into English, so bear with me. A little backstory. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer of the nasal cavity, stage 2. The tumor was quite large, but thankfully benign. Edit. People have pointed out I formulated this wrong. By benign, I wanted to shorten the fact it still did not spread into other tissue, thus it was still contained, which is what I thought the word meant. I apologize for my gaps in knowledge. To get it removed, I first had to undergo aggressive chemotherapy to make it smaller. Thanks to the chemo, I had severe alopecia, hair loss, which made most of my hair and even eyebrows and eyelashes fall out. At some point, I had to go bald, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to look like a skinhead / neo-Nazi. I'm 6'4" and pretty muscular, so I thought people would assume. So once, after a long chemo session in the hospital, I took the bus home. There's only one bus that goes from the hospital to where I live, so I took that one only to see it was absolutely packed. I felt like thanks to the chemo, so I asked a middle-aged dude to let me sit. He was very understanding and gave me his spot without complaining. If you're reading this, thanks bro. 2 stops later, enter EM, a lovely whale with an I demand a parlay with the CEO haircut and a 12-some-year-old kid. It took her roughly 5 seconds to see the bus was packed, start looking for a free seat, spot me, and start marching, or, in her case, trying to fit in the aisle between the seats while shoving others aside, to me. When I saw her, I knew I was screwed. She then stood next to me and decided to talk to me. This is the conversation that followed. EM. Hey, could you let my kid sit down? Me. You mean me? EM. Who else? Me. Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm on my way from the hospital and... EM. Cutting me off. So are we. Nonsense. The stop was a few kilometers away from the hospital. My boy just broke his leg, and we're coming straight from the ER. Her kid was standing next to me, without any support, clearly embarrassed. Me. He's standing next to you, completely fine. EM. Look here, boy. I am 21 years old. My kid deserves to sit down. Me. Look, madam, I'm sorry, but I just got back from a chemo session in the hospital, and I need to sit down and rest. I then moved my wig a bit to let her see my bald head. EM then straight up started yelling in my face. EM. Stop making excuses and get off the f***ing seat, you f***ing skinhead piece of shit. At this point, I was baffled. I didn't know what to say. The kid was trying to make his mother stop, and we had the attention of the whole bus. She then grabbed me and tried to yank me from my seat. I held on tight and thankfully didn't fall off. Now enter OG, my savior. OG. Will you shut the f*** up, you dumb cow? EM. Who do you think you're talking to? OG, with ice-cold voice. Stop assaulting other passengers or I will be forced to step in. Also, every dumb moron could see that this dude has cancer. EM. No, he's just a f***ing skinhead. OG. He's got no eyebrows, you... Seems like that really offended EM because she spun around on the spot and threw a falcon punch in OG's face. I was shocked and in disbelief. The whole bus was flabbergasted and the kid probably wished he'd never been born. OG then said something unbelievable and a golden, sweet karma moment followed. OG. Okay, that does it. Harassing passengers on the bus, physical assault against a passenger, and now assaulting an officer. You're in deep trouble, lady. OG then pulled out a badge and told her to stay where she was. Then he pulled out his phone, called someone, and told her she was being arrested. I couldn't believe it. OG was a bloody cop. At this point, EM was as white as a wall. The bus had just come to a stop, so she decided she'd make a run for it. But other passengers blocked her way. She then also got charged with resisting arrest, thanks to this. 3 stops later, a police car was waiting for the EM and EK. EK told me he was sorry for his mother's behavior, and I felt really sorry for the kid. He wasn't a bad child, but his mother was a hellspawn. OG then talked to me and asked me if I wanted to press charges, to which I gladly said yes, took a statement, and thankfully was kind enough to let me solve everything on the phone, so I didn't have to come to the police station for questioning. In the end, EM got some jail time. I think it was a few months, and some community service. I, in return, got a good story to tell and the sweet taste of instant karma. Right now, I'm riding the same bus home, as I just got back from the hospital after a checkup, which reminded me of this. A friend who's sitting next to me told me I should post it here. He, as much as myself, also couldn't believe that such people exist, but it seems I proved it to him. I should also note that the surgery went well. I was declared cancer-free in November, and my hair is slowly returning. Also, I don't need to wear a wig anymore.